Welcome back to the channel. Today we are looking at the UCO candle lantern. So this is something that I've had in my camping gear, I don't know, 10 years. Always thinking that maybe it'd be a nice piece of prepper supply to have on hand in case needed. You know, if you didn't have flashlights or batteries, electricity to recharge things. And these are awesome. I mean, the candles themselves last 9 hours, and we can go into that more in a little bit. I got a case of those right here. But one of the common things that I've heard over the years is that you could use these in a survival situation. Now, I don't think they necessarily make these claims themselves as a company, but what people would be doing is they'd put them in their vehicle, so that if they were stranded and it was cold, that they could light one of these inside the cab of their vehicle to produce heat. And I've seen these videos online of guys with tents, and they're running these, and there's ice and other buildup on the rain fly of their tent, and you know, it's melting a little circle at the top because it's producing so much heat. But in reality, how much heat is actually staying in the tent? Like, that makes sense, right? That a foot off the flame, you're going to have some of that melting. But does this really produce enough BTUs to keep you warm in an emergency situation? So we're going to see if any of that holds water with our own test. So let's lay some ground rules. What I think we're going to do is we're going to do an 8-hour test. So I've chosen a time period where we're having really consistent daytime and nighttime temps. I've calibrated my garage, my truck, my gauges, and I've noticed that everything's very consistent. The temp of my garage, which I'll get into a little bit, the inside of my truck, and what I'm trying to do is remove all variables. I don't want to test this in a vehicle that's outside, that's getting hit by the sun, you know, if it was the daytime, where the wind is hitting the side of the vehicle and taking heat away. I myself am not going to be inside the vehicle. Obviously, why would you burn a candle in your vehicle if you're not in there trying to survive? But I'm not going to be in there because my body produces a lot of heat. And how am I going to take an accurate test if I have all these different variables, right? So we're going to do an 8-hour battle in the garage. And in that vehicle, I'm going to put a thermometer that I bought, a Govee brand, that logs the temp every minute. And once I have logged 8 hours, I can transfer that to my phone and I'll export it so I can show you graphs and see what's going on there. So before we get into the test, I just thought it'd be cool to just do a quick overview of this UCO candle. So they do come with this really nice case. It's neoprene. I don't know if they still do, I would assume, but it's very padded and keeps it safe. You know, this is made out of aluminum. They do have a brass version, but just holds everything together, keeps it safe, which is really nice. And yeah, what I like is this handle with the chain actually holds the piece together. So if you see that, you know, kind of helps it from collapsing out. And when you fully extend this inner part, that's actually glass. So, you know, any measure they can to protect it within that aluminum body, within this case is, you know, really appreciated because you definitely, you know, a hard knock to the side, who knows what's going to happen, and then you're going to have to order a replacement. So far, I've never had any issues with the glass. I've never broken one, knock on wood, so we'll go from there, right? But yeah, it has a nice little chain at the top with a hook, so you can hang that wherever. And I'd say at this height, you're out of the danger zone for, you know, having too much heat come out of this and burning what's at the top. Now, I would be a little sketched out if this was hanging on a tent. I'd like a little more distance, you know, maybe another piece of chain or rope or whatever, something non-inflammable just to make that distance a little greater. But for the most part, where you're going to hang this, there isn't going to be an issue. But yeah, there's a shield at the top that helps kind of with the radiation of that heat. And this glass warms up a lot too. So, you know, if this is going and you have your hands, you know, within a foot, top, sides, you'll be able to feel that heat. To light it, there's a couple ways you could do that. One is with this fully extended, you can actually take this glass and slide it down. So you could get your lighter in there, if I know how to light a candle. And then you would just be able to slide that right back up. Another way, let's say that glass was already up, you could unscrew the base. This is normally what I do. And then you could light the candle, and then you just throw it back in, give it a twist. There's little knobs on the side that help lock that in place so it can't come back out, at least without, bumping it or other force. So that makes it pretty safe in my opinion. And then with this piece, this base screws out of the cylinder and has a spring. So what happens as this candle's burning, this one's really short and you can see in this window that it's mostly gone. But, I go in this box here. This is what the candle will look like when you first get it. So you throw that up there, and then this spring, and there's a little plate at the bottom. Let's see if I can get it out. Usually it's a little hard getting these out when they're still burning and haven't melted all the way through. Let's see if we can do this. We're gonna get it, but you see this plate right here. That basically holds the candle, and then this spring keeps that up. So really, really interesting design. We'll just lock that back in place. And then this is ready to go. Insert it back into there. So all in all, very handy unit. They make them in a whole bunch of different colors. They do make one that's, for tea lights. So it's much shorter, smaller glass. And again, those are much cheaper than, some of these candles. I recommend that you buy these in bulk to get the best deal. You can do it on Amazon, REI, whatever the case may be. And as you can see, there's different types. So you can get, just these 9-hour candles. Stay tuned for the end of this video. I'll tell you how long these actually last. They have citronella ones and then beeswax. So you can get these in different quantities, but again, you're going to get your best deal buying those in bulk. And then there's another one that I've had my eye on that actually holds 3 candles. So for the purposes of this test, it may be fun to, or a future test, burn one of those, as those give off much more heat than the single candle version. But this is the most popular one. This is the one that everyone talks about, what most people own. So that's why we're talking about this one today. All right, so we're finally getting snow in Wisconsin. And today I think it's gonna be the perfect day to do a proof of concept. So we're gonna go in the garage here. And overnight, the temps have been a consistent, mid-20s, and we're gonna expect that through today. While it is the daytime and we're doing this experiment in the garage, there's a chance, we could have kind of some solar heating, but I'm going to monitor that. Again, for this proof of concept, if the garage raises, a temp of more than a few degrees, I'm probably going to cancel the test and do another one. But I will say, looking at the garage temp here, obviously it stays a little bit warmer than, it would outside, but I've been very consistent with 38 to 40 degrees over the last 24 hours. And so I've been monitoring that. So we have the truck in the garage. And the reason I'm doing this is that I want to eliminate all the variables that I can. For this test, I'm going to have a camera that's watching the inside of the truck so I can view it remotely. What I don't want to be doing is opening, the door to the house and letting all that heat in here and disturbing the results. So I'm going to monitor it all remotely. I'll show you what I got going on in here. I've been logging the temp inside the vehicle, again, for let's just say the last 12 hours. Don't mind, the min and max on there. I just didn't reset it. But it's at 39.2 degrees. And I can show some graphs of what it's been overnight, but it's been very consistent. I think if I look, it's been 38 to 40 all night. Moving into the main area of the cab, what I have is this is like a Dutch oven liner, aluminum foil liner, and then I have this steel plate in there. I'm going to put the candle in there, just taking every precaution possible. If the candle were to tip, it's not going to start a fire. And again, I'm monitoring it remotely. I can have it on an iPad all day to view. Just for giggles, I'm going to have this carbon monoxide detector in here that logs levels. This is not something that should be relied on. It's not a scientific test, but I can recall what the highest level was. So right now it has shown 0 since I last reset it. So I just want to see. But again, that's not something you probably want to rely on. This is all for emergency situations only, and I'm not recommending that one burn candles in their vehicle to stay warm. Bring enough clothing, bring blankets. And obviously there's a fire hazard with burning or having an open flame next to anything. So again, at your own risk. But this is the experiment. So I'm going to get out the candle here. This is a brand new 9-hour candle. So there we go. All right, then we're going to put the glass up, the shield, make sure everything's firmly locked into place. And then I'll set that in here. All right. So that is sturdy. It is not going anywhere. We got attached to a nice flat console here. Again, I have the sunroof closed just for a little extra insulation, and the heat's not escaping through that glass as easy. And well, let's leave it for 8 or so hours and see how this cab temp changes. All right, so a little late lunch check-in here. I have the cam pointed at the garage with the candle going. I'm going to go in, one time here just to give you an update now that we're kind of at the halfway mark here in our 8-hour test. So again, I can bring this with me anywhere in the house. It has sound, so even if that fire alarm that I put in the truck went off, which it'd be too late for some damage, I would hear that as well. But again, with that pan in there and the way I have it set up, that we don't have a fire risk, people. For the trolls online, I got an extinguisher by the door. I've taken all my gas cans and stuff out of the garage. We're fine. But yeah, our garage temp has been maintaining exactly the same temp as it has been all night and day, around 38, 40. It's hard to look at that line. But yeah, then looking in the truck, again, we have our camera looking in, and we have that flame going in there, and it's, with the window tint and everything, it's going to be hard to zoom in. But yeah, just to say that, I'm looking at the app, so it's a Govee sensor in there, and we started, I would say, 39.2 degrees this morning, and we're at 40.3 degrees. I'll put these numbers up later. But so that's 1 degree in, let's say, approximately 4 hours. I'll dissect that data later. But not looking like a good way to heat your vehicle, but stay tuned. All right, so we're back in the garage, and we've logged over 8 hours now of our UCO candle burning inside of a truck inside this garage. I'll show you the thermometer on the wall if we can get a good picture, and it hasn't moved all day. Let's just call it 39 average the entire day. I don't know if it's 38, 40, but it hasn't moved. It was there all night, again, as I said earlier, and it's been there all day. And with the windows in this garage, I have a few on the door, but on that side, sun does not enter, so it did not contribute to any solar effect. Maybe I would assume that the ceiling warmed up some, but that never trickled down. We maintain a pretty solid temp the entire day. So let's call it 39. We had mostly cloud cover all day. It snowed all day, just got done shoveling. So we're now coming in after some dinner and checking this out. So let's go to the truck and see our candle. As you can see, it is still burning within our safety rig here that we got going on. I will say, I'm going to climb in here. It smells like candles. You know, I can definitely smell something in here, but I'm feeling the ceiling. It's not warm. So I know if I put my hand over it, you know, maybe 6 inches to a foot, I can feel some heat. But I feel there is no warmth on the ceiling, if that tells you anything. I don't feel a temp difference in here compared to the outside. We have our CO2 and fire detector in here. It's reading 0, and if I recall, it is 0. So again, not that that's an official test, but there's no measurable carbon monoxide in here, at least from that sensor, again, which is not scientific. So now we're just going to have to go to the thermometer. So we've been logging this every minute of the day, and we're going to look at the chart in a minute as soon as I load it all up. I can see it now, and we may have some unremarkable results. So let's look at the numbers and see how the UCO candle did. So again, this was an 8-hour test from 9 in the morning, 5 in the evening. When I put all the equipment in the truck and I lit the candle, I gave it about 15 minutes for everything kind of even out from having the door open, handling the thermometer. But I did notice at about 15 minutes, looking at the log of every minute, that's when everything was at its lowest and was resettled. And that's where the stopwatch began. So let's check out the numbers and see where we're at. Again, it was cloudy, it was snowing, overcast, and we had consistent temps outside. So I was happy to see that the garage stayed exactly where it was, because that's what I needed to have a fair test for this candle. So we started at about 39.2 degrees. And as you can see, over time, it went up slightly. But let's be honest, we're looking at about 1.5 degrees over the course of an entire day, with looks like a max of 40.82 degrees. And then for some reason, it actually started going down a little bit to 40.64. So I don't know what caused that. The temp of the garage and temp outside was not changing throughout the day, but I'm assuming that's maybe where it was kind of plateauing. But that's what we saw. We saw about 1.5 degrees throughout the entire day. So again, I had my log set to take a reading every minute and export that to a CSV. For the purpose of this graph, I'm just showing it by the half hour just to have a little bit cleaner data points on here. But again, yeah, every half hour, there's a reading. So in conclusion, I don't think this candle is going to save you in an emergency situation. We tested it in the truck. Again, now if I had this vehicle outside exposed to the wind, it was much colder than my balmy, 39-degree garage. If I was stuck in a vehicle for 8 hours and I opened the door, let's say even just once, because nature called, that would let all the heat out. The wind would be taking a lot of the heat away from the vehicle, unlike the stillness in my garage. There's so many factors that I think would have made the test results even worse. So I'm not even going to do the next test of putting this outside in the elements with wind. There's no heat that is going to be gained from this candle in 8 hours. And now thinking about it another way, you see these videos and other people talking about in tents. There's no way that a tent is going to be any more insulated than the cab of my truck. That's thin nylon, it's very airy, air passes through it easily. So I also don't recommend using this in a tent for heating purposes. Now, I will say, when you're holding this lantern and you are a foot away, you have your hand on top, you can feel the heat coming out, and there's some radiant heat around it. So if you were cuddled right against it, you wanted to warm your toes or your fingers, absolutely, it's going to work. But for the purpose of a tent, not so much. If you have 2 people in a tent and you've slept all night and you wake up, there is a certain heat in that tent. But that's because your body actually produces much more heat than a small candle like this. So again, I don't think it's going to add much whatsoever to the experience, other than it looks nice. Again, it's a natural color of spectrum of the light. It looks good. It's pleasing on the eye. It's kind of nice to move away from batteries and flashlights and other electronics and just kind of go back to fire. Obviously, it's costlier. It's a little bit more weight to carry around, and things can break a little bit easier, so it's probably not as durable as a flashlight. And of course, you always have the fire hazard. And is it putting soot and other chemicals from burning the petroleum elements in that candle? Now, I would not something I'm going to get super worried about with one candle in an open space, but are all these things worth it to use it to get maybe a degree in the inside of a vehicle? At that point, I would say pack an extra blanket, an extra jacket, and you'll be fine. But still a cool thing to have. I could see someone putting a can on here or some container, and you could heat up water or maybe food. That's certainly possible. Again, I've mentioned that they have the 3 candle model, which is going to be much more heat, and I've actually seen people heat up things on that flat surface up there. So, I guess anything's possible. So, yeah, what do you think? The test results kind of match what your expectations were. That's what I've learned. If there's another test I can do, I'd be more than happy to do it. Interestingly enough, I've probably been burning this 9-hour candle for about 12 hours today, and it's still going, so take that as a little bonus learning for the day. But yeah, if you like this video and you want to see more like it, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up. And if you want this candle, the UCO, there's many different colors, again, brass, aluminum, and different size models. Head over to the link in the description below and pick one up yourself.